your HR professionals and company supervisors, and we provide divorce coaching and case management, providing guidance and the direction that your divorcing employees so desperately need. As a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and we'll post the link at the end of this broadcast for you to go ahead and grab those. And I want to introduce you to Paulette Rigo. She is my friend, she is my colleague, and she is an incredible certified divorce coach and mediator. She's a certified divorce specialist and is the director of coaching and case management here at Divorce Right. Welcome, Paulette.
Well, good afternoon, Vicki, and hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. So great to be here and bringing this valuable information to so many people that need it.
Well, we're going to be talking about one of our solutions that we have, and this one is for your divorcing employees going through a divorce. It's something that Paulette wrote for us, and it's brilliant. I've read it. I wrote a recommendation for it in the forward, and I'm thrilled to be offering this course to any of your divorcing employees. So let's just start at the top. Paulette, what inspired you to write Plan Right, Your Better Divorce Blueprint? And dedicate your life, actually. You've turned your life into helping employees going through the divorce process.
I never dreamed I'd do this work. Let me just start by saying that. I was not that person that went to law school and wanted to wear a navy blue suit and, show up in court and understand everything and anything about the law. Not that I was anti the law or court. It just wasn't in my, I don't know, just it wasn't in there. And throughout my own personal 8.5 year fully litigated divorce case experience, I know, yes, I did say that, 8.5 years.
And add the what came after that?
It was the 4-year appellant process, but the case included a trial, which is very unusual. 97% of divorce cases do not go to trial. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could have a trial in a divorce. I simply thought that you found an attorney, you filled out some paperwork, and you maybe went to a few meetings or hearings or I don't know, some sort of meetings with attorneys and created a conversation to come up with some sort of agreement, and the judge read it and signed it, and who knows, maybe that took a little while, but I didn't know anything. I was green. Now, because I had a trial that lasted 12 days, that took place over 9 months, and there was the 4-year appellant court process, my case took forever. It cost a ton of money. It caused me an extreme amount of stress, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually damaging. I felt defeated. I felt broken. I felt trapped and confused. I felt like a failure. I didn't understand why this was happening. Even though I was the one that filed for divorce, you would think I should have done my homework. And I did. I really, truly thought I had, Vicki. I'd done a lot of reading. Now, I think the internet and research has changed and made it a lot more accessible. This was about 15 years ago. So naturally, if you turn back time, things have changed a bit. But, I still did my homework. I consider myself an intelligent woman. I have a degree in journalism, mass communication. I'd always been a successful entrepreneur. I wasn't a slouch. Now, I did not have my law degree, and naturally I think that may have helped, but not really, because it isn't just the law that was the knowledge I needed. So through my own personal experience, that was sort of the impetus for why so many people started to reach out to me, whether it was gossip, reading about it, hearing about it, a word spreads. And I started to get a lot of people through other work that I had done in my life, reaching out to me, asking me for help and guidance. And I didn't feel prepared. I usually said no. And eventually I did call my attorney and said, should I go to law school? And he said, you know, Paulette, you'd be one hell of a litigator. You think like a judge, you act like a lawyer, and you feel like a therapist. And I can still remember him saying that. So it was a culmination of my own experience, external people coming to me for guidance, help. I wouldn't say advice, but really a sounding board where they could, have somebody that could be empathetic and understanding, but also knowledgeable. Because I found that there's so many common errors that I made and many other people make that are similar time and time again. So I started to take copious notes, and I do mean that. I was an excellent note taker as a child, in high school and college, in my career, being in communications. I loved to take notes. So I had all these notebooks, and I started to notice common themes that I saw in my own experience. And I started to hear the language, because there's a lot of acronyms lawyers speak and just terminology that we don't hear in common everyday speak. And then I started to see the common mistakes that other people were making. And I would say internally, oh, I did that too.
Mm.
Oh, I did that too. And I started to create or look for first a book, a course, a study guide, something that not only gave the legal step by step by step by step process, because that's where we want to start. Normally, internally, we think, well, what do I do? And how do I start? And do I need an attorney? How much will it cost? How long will this take? Et cetera, et cetera. It's a long, long list. But then also there's the other aspects of the journey. And so many people trust their spouse to do the right thing. You trust yourself to do the right thing, and that it doesn't always work. So from there, I noticed my notes were getting to be extensive, right? And I started to put it into different buckets before contemplating. Um, just that feeling of what's wrong, can it be fixed? What do I need to do? Should we go to therapy, counseling, all those other initial questions that you ask yourself at the very beginning. So the beginning is the first three steps or modules or lessons or chapters, or call it what you will, whether you're reading the book or doing the online course. It's broken down in that before aspect. Everything that you really need to understand, your thought process, feeling your feelings, deciding what you want. That's key. Taking responsibility and ownership for yourself, being responsible for the part that you've played in this, all the deal breakers, all the reasons typically why couples do divorce. And there's 21 of them. How you prepare and how you protect yourself, and feeling not so overwhelmed, but having that sense of being organized and researched and prepared. Honoring your values, how to tell the children what not to tell the children, how to decide what method of divorce is right for you, and knowing that there's more than one method. Practicing mindfulness, being really aware and deliberate in your actions, in your words, so that they don't come back to bite you and haunt you later. Because everything you say and everything you do is being observed and recorded and documented, and taking control of your emotions and your future, because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to take ownership of the future path and decision making, and ultimately the trajectory of the outcome. And that doesn't happen by accident. You have to really understand the evidence and documentation. Even if it's not contested, you still have to be able to fill out the domestic relations financial affidavit, known as a DERFA. There's so many acronyms. Gathering all of that, the budget, the lawyers speak. And there's that saying that ignorance is bliss. Well, in divorce, no, that
Mm.
is not true.
No,
And
it's not, folks.
advocate.
It's
Who do
not.
you need to advocate for you? And being organized, having a planner, a journal, and a calendar, because it's so easy to go to court the wrong day, show up too early, show up too late, just forget about something.
Mhm.
Oh, and then so the whole initial stage, and sometimes that can last about 2 years. Now, in your job, imagine how that's going to affect your life, your career, your business. Every aspect of your life is going to be affected. If you don't have your act together and you're losing sleep and you're not eating, or you're sleeping too much and eating too much, or whatever you're doing to cope is not in your best interest, it's going to be the domino effect of every other aspect of your life. It's going to affect your productivity. It's going to affect your income and all the other aspects that you need to have your ducks in a row at work. You need to be a productive, effective, important aspect of your career, regardless of whether you're a school teacher, a nurse, a pilot, a bartender. I'm being very stereotypical here with careers, but whatever executive or employee role you play, for sure, I guarantee you, if you are thinking about divorce, if you are going through divorce or trying to heal from divorce and start to create your next chapter, it will affect your work. It will. So the middle part is that whole aspect of you're in the midst of it. What does that look like? Getting familiar with the process, the law, finding the right family law attorney. Maybe you need a fiduciary, a certified divorce financial analyst. Is there a marital property? Do you need a certified divorce real estate expert? Is there a mortgage? If there is, what do you do about that? You probably need a certified divorce lending professional. The other experts, mental health. If you have children, maybe you need a co parenting or a pediatric specialist in juvenile therapy, because play therapy, and there's so many different ways that therapists can help children mitigate divorce. Having a team approach. Now, you may not need all of these experts, so don't panic, everyone. You may need just a divorce coach. You may need just an attorney. But if you have been in a long-term marriage and there are significant assets, what's significant? That's going to be different for everyone, right? Are there children? And how transparent are you and your spouse with your emotions and also with your finances?
Finances is big.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people find out suddenly that there are offshore accounts.
Or just, yeah, a checking account, you don't know, a credit card or four,
Right.
you don't know. Maybe there's you're in debt with the IRS because your spouse never told you, or your spouse said that they paid the taxes and they didn't. There's so many, and once you're married, all the assets are commingled, right? And is it marital? Is it premarital? This is not legal advice, so be sure you find out what is and what is not. So there's a lot of that in the course. So getting through that, child support, legal custody, physical custody, creating a parenting plan, the division of marital assets and debt. What does that look like? And are you a case for spousal support, AKA alimony? And the waiting game. It takes longer than you think. It's kind of like when you do a renovation in your house. Always add a few more months or a year to it. It's going to take a
Isn't
lot
that
longer than they tell
the
you it's going to. And just because they say they're going to cooperate doesn't mean they actually do. And that's called compliance and enforcement. You have to be able to have something that's enforceable because it will not hold water in court in the after. So make sure that you have that. And then estrangement and alienation and losing friends and people taking sides. And even at work, people can take sides. That could be so uncomfortable. Your boss and all of your coworkers are going to need to learn to be empathetic and caring, but also you need to be able to choose who to trust and who to advocate for you. And likely you need to have a sacred space where you can really keep your personal life personal and your professional life professional. And is there going to be a little gray area? Maybe, but how does that work? And now, of course, in the after, dating, changing your name, your new career, investing, making sure that you have a financial plan so that you are not, when child support and alimony, if and when you are either paying it or receiving it, ends up not making you broke, and now you have to file for bankruptcy. So it's a whole, boy, a jigsaw puzzle of everything in life. So that's why I created it. I wish I'd had it when I was
Right.
going through my journey. It saves all of my clients work it, whether they read it word for word or they're actually managing it together collectively. It's having that map. That's why I call it a blueprint.
Well, I tell you what is, and I want everybody to understand that, as they're listening to that, your employees, you know, you wake up one day to the words, I want a divorce. And
Mhm.
those may be your words or they may be your spouse's words coming at you. But either way,
Right.
then what? Right? It's like the brand is very big in divorce. It's you've got to find a shark, you've got to find a bulldog, you've got to find a lion to go
It's
out
fight.
there, right?
It's fight. Fight
It's
or
fight,
flight.
it's
Mhm.
fight, fight, fight. And those very decisions could set your relationship with going even through the process of being it could have been amicable to now it's acrimonious. It's that those decisions of lawyering up can oftentimes make the difference of whether or not you can have an actual relationship
True.
with your spouse, soon to be ex-spouse, but they're still the parent of your children if
Mhm.
you've got children together or if you
Right.
have a business together. You're still going to have things to manage between each other. And I will assure you that it is cheaper to not go at each other with, with battle gear on. So, we want to help your employees. If you're listening, we want to help your employees make good decisions.
Mhm.
And one of the things that Paulette had mentioned was a financial affidavit. My story is that I had a young man knock on my door one day. I opened it. He hands me an envelope that says, "You've been served." I was being held in contempt of court because I could not get through it myself. Every time I touched that document, it was, well, this isn't what I thought my life would be. This
Mhm.
wasn't the marriage that I thought I was in, right? So getting through it and touching that document was just, it was like poison to me. It was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do for myself, or my family. So you've got the book and the course. So let's just go through it real quickly for those that are listening. For your employees, it comes in a book, a downloadable book, a
Mhm.
workbook, a 10 plus hour self-paced video course that they can take,
Mhm.
and they have access to weekly group coaching calls where they can come on and give us their top 5 things that are keeping them awake at night, right? And we can
Yes.
again give them that guidance and direction to making better decisions during this process, because it's really in those bad decisions. And you hear people just give her everything, just give him everything, right? And I get it too, because you're trying to stop the pain, right? But ultimately, that's a different conversation when you're 25 versus when you're 55,
Well,
right?
and people learn different ways, Vicky. Some people need to hold it in their hand, sit down
Right.
in the morning early before the kids get up, before, and in their own little world, because 2 years is the average amount of time that people contemplate divorce. And if they just found out from their spouse that their spouse wants a divorce, well, you better believe it. They're really in hyper vigilant mode of learning, learning, learning. So they're in a state of really trying to gather as much knowledge and wisdom, hopefully, and education as they can. So some people like to hold it in their hand, print it, get out the highlighter, dog tag it, feel all those kind of, they want to hold it. And other people need to get out the pen and read the question and answer it and think about it, ponder it, let it digest and assimilate and contemplate a lot more so they can really figure out their emotional part of it. And other people are more like, get out the spreadsheet, let's figure out the numbers. We have to honor that people learn differently. So we need something that's auditory, visual, kinesthetic. People learn different ways. Now, some people are going to use all of them. They're going to do every question, read every word, listen to every module, every video. But, some people have to, curtail that to what works for them. Other people are going to take their time, which is the beauty of self-paced. Other people want to get that thing done in a weekend, right? So I don't suggest that, everyone, but I've seen it done. Now, once you have that, there's also this feeling of feeling alone. Who to confide in. And that's one of the top mistakes people make, is confiding in the wrong people. A boss, a coworker, a family member may or may not be the appropriate person to confide in. But I will tell you, in the work I do, when I have groups coaching sessions, and I also have a group support group that I host, I let them all know that this is, what do they say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So what happens in group coaching calls stays in group coaching calls, and they sign, this is not to be shared. No, people can use you can call yourself whatever you want to. It doesn't have to be a real name, and you can be off camera. And you can also submit your questions via email through a type form ahead of time. So there can be anonymity. But even though whether you choose to have that or not, it's a sense of community. You're no longer feeling alone, that you're some sort of, unicorn loser, and that you did something wrong and you're being punished, or you're a bad person. So that's also key, is having that additional place to feel like, oh, wow. And you learn from other people, right? How many times have you learned from other people's mistakes? I know I have, right? So, and you can also share, if the time is appropriate, with guidance, and have that sense of community, so you don't feel so alone. It's very important that you
So
are able to have that.
question for you. So many of us that have been through this process find it overwhelming, stressful, super traumatic. It's a trauma that doesn't end once the divorce decree has been signed and approved by a judge, right?
Mhm.
It's not, this is, people, it's the second most stressful event in people's lives, second only to the death of a family member or spouse.
Yes.
And the difference between this and that, not to diminish the death of a loved one in any way, but it does have an end, and healing can begin.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can move forward. And in divorce, it doesn't happen that way. These things, just because it's been signed, does not mean that the issues, particularly around children and money. So can you describe some of the techniques and strategies that you recommend in your book and your course to help employees approach the process so that they can come to work with more focus and clarity and certainty? Because I feel like divorce is just all about just being completely uncertain about which direction to go. Where do I turn? So what do you think are your biggest tips and techniques and strategies that you provide?
Well, much of it depends on where in the journey they are, naturally. So if they happen to be the one that is filing or contemplating filing, or they're the one that's asking for the divorce, it's much more of a practical decision of, do they want to, or are they willing to create a settlement agreement that their spouse is likely to accept, receive. I'm not going to say with open arms, but at least entertain a conversation, and to have all that preliminary work done prior to having a conversation at the kitchen table about, hey, honey, I want a divorce. Because now you're not sure, where are we going to live? How are we going to manage the children? How are we going to pay the bills? Oh, you can see the
Right? That's when they get up here. That's what makes them, that uncertainty makes your employees productivity
And the
level.
last thing they can do is think about work. Now they've got to
Right,
think about just, um, uh, who's buying the groceries and who's living in the house and who's
right,
taking the kids to soccer. So it's this preliminary understanding of what methods may or may not work for you and your spouse based on your case, and understanding that there are options and which ones are maybe best or applicable for your situation. And
right.
then what are the categories that the courts are concerned with? So it's really getting that financial, logical, practical picture in a not necessarily anything of formal document. It could just be a conversation, but that initial preparation so that they themselves can not be overwhelmed prior to entertaining a conversation with their spouse is key to having it continue to be uncontested and amicable. As soon as one tiny little aspect of the decision is no longer uh, agreed upon, you go from a uncontested case to a contested case. It's either 100% amicable and, well, uncontested, or it's not. It can't be a little bit uncontested. So, that's why that preliminary knowledge of having somebody that can walk through it and ask you the right questions so that you can say, yeah, I think that's a possibility. We might be able to do that. Or, oh, that's going to be a really hard sell. I don't know if we could do that. And looking at that from a very practical point of view and seeing it from a separate process from the emotional journey, because that is going to require typically some therapy and counseling and experts from a point of view of how congruent are the spouses in their emotional journey. Some people are more verbal and outgoing and are going to be very sad or very angry, more extroverted in their response or their emotions to the conversation. And are they in the dark? Or, what are they? I always ask them at some point, did you see this coming? Or do you think your spouse is aware that you're having these type of feelings? And that may be a whole session right there, right? We don't know. And having that emotional part of it dealt with, addressed, and digested and really managed wisely without pouring the emotions on the spreadsheet. Because as soon as you dump
Yeah.
the emotional, mental, psychological stuff on the practical side, whew, it's going to take a lot longer to figure out. And there are those people that are all about just the spreadsheet. What are you talking about? Can't you get over it? What's the big deal? And how challenging will that conversation be based on the demeanor of your partner? And that is really important in the beginning. If it's in the middle, usually it's about learning to manage their attorney well, so they're not getting $6, $8, $10,000 bills every month, because attorneys charge by increments of minutes. They don't just charge hourly. So I know they have an hourly rate, everyone, but and I love attorneys. Some of my best friends are attorneys. I mean that. So, but you've got to learn how to use your attorney wisely, and also get to know all the people in the firm and the paralegals, and make sure you understand how to best manage the divorce case. That is such a key thing for them to learn, because they just don't know that that's something they need to learn.
And that's what I love. So as we wrap this up today, what I want HR professionals to understand about what happens when they go through this course, they go from uncertainty to some certainty. And that puts them, there's that presenteeism that we talk about when they're
Mhm.
sitting at their desk like this. They're thinking about, how am I going to pay my bills? Where are my children going to live? Am I going to still be able to maintain my job? All of those things that make them crazy.
Mhm.
This course helps bring them down, brings the temperature in the room down for them, because they have some clarity. They have a plan that they've created for themselves. It's not the plan that I would choose or you would choose or she would choose or he would choose. It's the one that your employee says is right for them. So Paulette, thank you so much for bringing some clarity to Plan Right. And I want to remind everybody, I'm going to put our SHRM credit link in the box here. So if you are a member of SHRM, you get credits for our LinkedIn lives that we do every Thursday from 1 o'clock to 1:30. And so go ahead and grab those. And if you have any questions about how this can support your employees, please reach out to us. I will also put my email address in the divorcerightinc.com. Sorry about my, I'm probably like, there we go. So please feel free to reach out to me and let's see how we can get bring some ease and grace, get your employees some guidance and direction in a system that is typically one that eats its young. It really is not a fun or easy process to go through, particularly when you don't know what you're doing. And even me, I knew what I was doing and I still messed it up. So I encourage
Easy for that to happen.
it
Yeah.
is indeed.
Don't let your employees or your business suffer because your employees are going through divorce. They can get through it with grace and dignity. They do not need to ruin their well-being and their career by mismanaging their stress, anger, fear, sadness, and overwhelm due to divorce. They can learn to manage it. That's what we do.
That's it. Well, thank you again. And we will be back next week with another LinkedIn Live where we help your divorcing employees have a better experience so that they can come back to work as a more productive and centered employee. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week. Thank you.